Oh, it's my, hold on.
Okay, so I'm gonna switch the screen over for a second while I check something because I don't want. Okay, we are live.
Okay.
Okay, let me get the screen back.
Okay.
Oops. No, 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 no. Got the wrong one up. Okay. There you go. Oh, okay. So we're live with Prince of Queens.
Hi.
So I wanted to say it's an honor to have you on the channel, and I like your at ease and confidence when I watch your videos. I think probably your perspective comes from constant exposure to the people you talk about.
Yeah, like a lifetime of exposure. Like, unfortunately, it's not just exposure. It's just it's literally,
Everywhere,
yeah,
right?
for me.
Well,
Yeah.
most of the people around me when I talk about these things, their eyes get like glazed over, and they're like, I don't know all these MRAs and SJWs. I have no idea what you're talking about. Like
Hmm.
transgender, you know, they really most people don't. I think most people don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Where
So
do you live?
in the U.S., I don't. This is I'm like you. I'm anonymous. So
Yeah, I was just wondering like what region. Because I live in Seattle. I've learned that I should state that at this point. But um like
let's
if you were
just
to say
say
the Northeast, the South, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm on the east. I'm on the east.
okay. So um yeah, I would say most people don't really care to a certain like most people are just trying to like live their lives and whatever. Um but for me, being okay, so I was born and raised in the actual city of Seattle, and not just in the city, but like I was born on Capitol Hill of Seattle, which is the gay neighborhood. And my parents were both like far leftists. My mother was a feminist, and my dad had actually been an actual communist in the 1950s for a while. But it's not that he's like all like a crazy leftist now. Like, he was in college, and then he's in a nursing home, and he told me the story. Um, he decided that, I mean, just after years of being around these people, because he was around them for like 5 or 7 years, and he just realized that it just didn't actually work out, and that like it seemed like a good idea to try to like live up to communist ideals, but in practice there was always authoritarianism, and there's always somebody who was getting a little bit more of a slice of the pie, and that kind of a crap.
Everybody's equal, but some people were more equal, right?
Yeah, and some people's ordering other people around, and if you better not cross those people, and like that kind of a shit. And it seems kind of cool to like rob from, like, he says that they were like stealing from like big grocery stores and giving it to poor people, and that seems kind of cool. But like, um ultimately it was just kind of a sham. It wasn't going anywhere. And I think that the deal is that he was a science student, and a lot of, at the time, they were trying to suck up to him. This is just sort of my theory. He didn't say this explicitly, but they, the people who, if you're valuable for their image, like if they get to like tokenize you, like, com right wing people will tokenize minorities. Certainly, that definitely happens. If it's like, oh, we found a trans girl who's a conservative. Oh, so cool. They'll definitely do that. Well, communists will tokenize productive people. It's like, oh my god, we have someone who does shit. This is amazing. Let's suck up to him and be really really nice to him. And I think they kind of did that a little bit to my dad. But he eventually got tired of it, and he got really drunk and told them all off. And he's like, no, this stupid shit doesn't work. It doesn't actually work in practice. And I think that, and this was in the 1950s, so it's probably like when uh, the millions of people being brutal, like, murdered and tortured and everything in the Soviet Union and in China was starting to come to light. because it had been happening for years, but they didn't know about it in America till the 1950s, really. And I imagine it was around that same period, and so he sort of told them off, and then they beat him up.
Oh boy.
Like a number of them beat him up, and so then he was like, "Fuck them." And but my dad still came from this kind of like far leftist background, and so being born on the gay area in Seattle, being raised by a feminist, being raised by that guy, that was just sort of how my life was.
That's amazing because I have probably the exact opposite upbringing of people that were practically, if not John Birchers,
What's that?
and thought there was a commie hiding behind every tree.
Mm.
And so it. I was raised in a religious home, never religious, because they could never convince me. And the same with the conservatism. I just give me a good reason, I'll follow. Like convince me, and that's verboten in religion and on the far right. You're supposed to just obey.
Okay.
But
yeah, there were a lot of assumed things like that.
From different I arrived at being on the left, liberal, whatever, and then I'm horrified. The last several years, I've become horrified at what everything that I hated about the extreme right I'm seeing on the left right now, and you're seeing that. I mean, it's practically the subject of most of your videos, right?
Yeah, it's kind of what I got known for talking about on YouTube.
But I think you were recently talking about defining hate speech, or I don't remember your exact video. You probably had many, but this has come up, the slippery slope. And I don't know if you follow Jordan Peterson.
Sure.
The slippery slope of hate speech.
Yeah.
Now there's a thing called consideration, and I don't go around trying to make people feel bad and say horrible things to them. And you're probably the same way, right? I mean, that's kind of mean. And bring it right to the point, what Jordan Peterson said, what I've been saying for years is that, I mean, it's common sense. Who gets to decide? And the people that you don't want to decide are probably going to be the ones that decide what you're not allowed to say.
Yeah, they're going to be the one that raised their hand saying, "I want to decide."
Right. And, well, I mean, we have everyone on the left, people on the left coming up to me. They're crying about, Donald Trump's new appointment to some cabinet. I said, well, he's the president. He gets to pick. I'm not a fan of him, but, he gets to pick his cabinet secretaries. That's the way it works. And so they're the ones that get to decide right now, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, do you mean the Trump administration?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they get to decide about their own administration. I mean,
the executive branch can, execute the laws. For example, we had before Clinton, they were going after people for porn. Clinton's like, let's not bother with that. Let's go after something else. They go after Monica or something. But so you have your priorities, like like with the immigration thing, change your priorities. Let them be, lock them up. So they get to write the rules, and they also get to appoint judges. Whoever's in charge gets to appoint judges in the Supreme Court, which is probably it's going to be more lasting than a 4-year presidency.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. I would say that to a certain degree, the federal government gets to write the rules. But there's various ways in which they don't entirely. I guess that's the whole like checks and balances thing. But I mean, I think that the whole hate speech thing, we're kind of really lucky in the way that the Trump administration, I don't think that they're going to be interested in trying to talk about hate speech a bunch. I don't think that that's
no, I don't think so. But what happens is the normal for, say, you look at Mike Pence, and he's very religiously conservative. I don't think Trump is, and in the administration, they I don't think they're going to say, oh, we're going to have safe spaces and stuff, but what is the tenor of the conversation has changed, and the people on the far left are hysterical right now.
Really hysterical.
And if they were in charge, if some of them were in charge and they were allowed to, we'd be like, like they're trying to, like Canada's starting to head into.
I'd probably be in prison.
You know what? I just finished a video. I haven't uploaded it yet on Canada's hate speech laws, and it's really interesting what I discovered. It's right there. It's right there. It's it's pretty. Jordan Peterson's right, but there's the carve outs they've made, and I mentioned this in the video. I think they made religious carve outs for Muslims. You can basically do and say whatever you want publicly, and say, "Oh, it's my religion," or "I believe this."
Yeah, but no one else.
Well, it's in the law. It doesn't say Muslims, but it says if you believe it to be true, things like that. And
but they don't. It's so selectively enforced to such an absurd degree. Like, because okay, did you notice my saga about my most recent hate speech strike? Did you follow that at all? Because it's actually one of the most interesting things that's ever happened on my channel.
No, but I want to hear about it.
Nobody even, like, seriously, everybody got so, I swear to God, by the time this happened, everybody is so used to hate speech strikes and the fact that channels are getting terminated and everything, that it was actually basically completely ignored. Like, but I swear to God, if somebody, like if one of the bigger channels like looked at what actually happened to me in this instance, so I'm locked out of my channel, as you know, it's one of the reasons why we're streaming on your channel. I got in trouble, and I talked to the same guy that got you your channel back, who's nice guy or girl. I don't even know if anybody knows who this person is, a trusted flagger.
Yeah.
Who's, I would say the best word to describe this person is just very professional, just tells you what they think that they can do, whether they think it's fair, what their interpretations of the rules are, and will try to get you your channel back or try to get your video strike removed if they think that they can. Right? That's what it seems like to me.
Well, I would agree with the professional right to the point, but I got a lot less information than you did, I think.
Well, okay, so but I pressed it because this is what happened. Well, and my hate speech strike didn't get overturned. So I made a video called "Non-Binary Women Are So 2015." So it was called "Non-Binary Women Are So 2015," and the operative notion was that in 2015 or so, it became really trendy for women, like the non-binary thing had been around for like a few years, kinda, if you were in the right areas. I was in San Francisco, so I had met people who were like that, but it was people who were like, butch lesbians who didn't want to transition, basically, like those were the people who were calling themselves non-binary. And like, I could see that. It's fine, I don't care if you are like kind of trans seeming, if you sort of seem like you're transgender but you're not going to go on hormones, then like fine, I can see why you'd want to call yourself non-binary. But then like people took that and sort of ran with it and were like, wait, so but they're saying that you don't have to transition. Well, how about I just don't have to do anything at all, and I'm not even going to get a haircut, and I'm just going to dress in pink dresses, and I'm going to say I'm not a woman, and I'm blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you literally see, that is not an exaggeration. That's a common, like semi-common thing. If you go to the wrong places, you will find women that are like that, and they expect you to call them with they, them pronouns, and they will get mad if you don't, or they will use it as a, like if they think that you're an icky, mean MRA or something, they'll be like, you just misgendered me, and I'm and it's they'll use it in arguments, and so I had observed that happening on Facebook with a specific woman, and oh my god, this woman. Am I allowed to swear on your channel? I probably
Yeah,
shouldn't.
yeah. Well, I'm.
Okay,
You can. I don't
this,
care.
this woman was a cunt, like a definite, like it's just a word that rhymes with punt and starts with a c, really, really obviously. The thing that happened was, some gay guy who is, I don't actually know his ethnicity, but he's not white. He's pretty dark skinned Asian, I think. Like maybe he's like Filipino. He posted some article about how racist gay guys' dating preferences are, and and white gay guys are racist because they put on their hookup profiles that they only want white gay men. This girl comes and she's like, "Men are so terrible," and a number of the guys had a problem with her, and they're like, why are you even here? Like, why are you contributing to this discussion? It sounds like because she was like just shaming guys and like trying to like it looked like she was just trying to pit gay guys against each other, and guys were kind of calling her out for that. It's like, you're a woman. Why nobody is going to date you anyway? Why are you contributing to this discussion and trying to like stir up animosity within the gay community? Like, why do you even give a shit? And as soon as they said you're a woman, and this is like a woman, like I showed a picture of her, like she has tits, like fucking, and like long curly hair, wears a lot of makeup. There's nothing the least bit androgynous about her at all in any way. And she's all like, "Oh, you're calling me a woman, you're transphobic," and so she started pulling that crap, and it was just really crappy. And so that was I used a picture of her in my video, and then I went on and I said, yeah, this thing kind of happened, and I would say it peaked culturally in 2015 in the way that those type of people really, really were convinced in 2015 that they were actually cool and that they were winning and that the future was female, except for it's also non-binary. I have this joke, feminist logic. Women are superior to men because non-binary. And but I was like, yeah, but it's over. It stopped being cool as soon as Milo Yiannopoulos and Blair White came on the scene, and everybody realized how stupid these women are. But some of them are still like that. But I guess there's certain people that never move past certain trends. And so, I'm a kid of the 90s, and I've known people who never got over 90s goth. Like they're still into like Marilyn Manson and stuff, and they just never got over it. And that was kind of like, that was sort of the point
He
of
was
my
the
video.
man that started it all, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the really ironic part
The
about
man
it.
that started it all. Well, you're talking about trans trenders now, right?
Yeah, but not even necessarily trans trenders. Like people who don't even want to be trans trenders, like people who just want to fucking like order other people around. Like I don't. These people are really, really bad, because like, and I don't think that you encounter them very often if you aren't within the far left like social universe. Like if you're not within the LGBTQIA plus type. Like if you don't know a few hundred of those people,
The
and
alphabet soup, right?
yeah, and you live with in cities like San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, maybe New Orleans, places like that. um then you're going to run into these people. But if you're not, it's really, really rare when you're going to run into them. But it's like these just delusional women, especially. Very rarely do you encounter a guy that's like this, but they exist. It's just very rare. And they think that they can just kind of order everybody around and say, "No, I'm not a woman, and you better pretend to think that I'm not a woman, and if you don't, then I'm going to call you transphobic." And it makes no sense at all. Like they didn't even get a haircut. Like Milo Stewart, you can see that she's trying to like sort of look trans in a little bit of a way, but like these people aren't even trying, and they know that they're not trying. They're like, I'm gonna say I'm gonna dress up in pink dresses, have long hair, have tits, wear a bra. It's, you can see my bra strap hanging out. And then I'm going to claim that I'm non-binary. And I know I'm lying. You know I'm lying. And you have to pretend to actually see me as trans. And that's the whole game. And it's fucking weird that they're so brazen. Like they think that they're going to get away with it. Right. Um, well, that was what the video was about, and that video got flagged as hate speech, and there wasn't anything hate speechy about it, and you can watch it on BitChute if you want. Well, what happened was it got flagged as hate speech, and I tried to get it reinstated by talking to Trusted Flagger, and
So
Trusted,
wait, so that was just a community strike then?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a singular community strike, and it happened within just a few hours. I don't know who watched it, but it happened within definitely less than 12 hours because I uploaded it, did a few things, went to bed, and by the time I woke up, it was gone. But people said it was more like 4 or 5 hours. And then talked to Trusted Flagger, and Trusted Flagger said that they don't think that they can get it reinstated. And I was like, really? And I'm like, and so I pressed. I was like, why exactly? Like, and they said they didn't want to challenge, they didn't want to contest this particular video because they were pretty sure that YouTube headquarters, if they looked at it, would consider it hate speech, and they listed a number of potential reasons why. And like one of them was the fact that I did show the girl's photo, even though I didn't name her. I just showed a public photo of her. And
which is kind of borderline. That's iffy at best.
It's definitely not an actual violation of
Right.
the YouTube rules,
Right.
but I can see why, a professional person that it's their job to present, YouTube, whoever is working above Trusted Flagger in this system, only has so much time to review so many videos. And so if there's like 5 or 6 very, very small things, I can see why they wouldn't want to waste that person's time if they didn't think that that person was going to actually look at it. You don't bug your boss if you think your boss is going to say no. It's just sort of how work is. So
yeah, but if your mom says no, you asked your dad, or the other way around.
yeah, well, okay.
No, they if they would be a little more, I think if they would be a little more, because this seems to be universal. If they would let's spell out what you did wrong, then you could actually avoid that.
Well, I figured out by process of elimination what it really was. I asked a number of questions, and I was like, okay, so you listed a number of little reasons, but I want to know specifically about this non-binary thing. Am I allowed to say that I don't think that this person is genderless, that I think that this person is a woman? And they said, I believe that you saying that violates YouTube's terms of service around hate speech regarding sexuality and gender
identification.
Yeah. Yeah.
You deny their very existence by doing that.
Yeah. So this explicit ruling at YouTube, as interpreted by one of their actual workers who does this as a seeming full-time job, because everybody's always talking to this Trusted Flagger person, is that you cannot deny that an obviously gendered person has no gender. So it's basically as good as saying that, it's like, are you a Star Trek fan?
Kind of. I mean, yeah.
Well, Star Trek: The Next Generation, one of the most famous episodes, they kidnapped the Kardashians, are this evil alien race, and they kidnapped Jean-Luc Picard and tortured him for a long time, and were trying to break him. And the way that they were trying to figure out if they could, completely 100% manipulate him and his spirit was broken was they showed him he had to stare at 4 lights nonstop while he was being tortured, and they would say, "How many lights do you see?" And he was like, "There's 4." And then they'd hurt him, and he was like, "No, there are 5. How many lights do you see?" And that was it was a 2-part episode. It was just this excruciating episode of psychological and physical torture that Captain Picard had to go through, and it was basically the equivalent of that. Like it's like, no, this is obviously a woman, like more than obviously a woman. It's not even like a Milo Stewart where you can see like she's sort of pretending, but like this is like the girliest girl ever, and she's saying that she's not a woman, but I'm supposed to pretend that she's not like a man or something, but I'm supposed to pretend that she has no gender at all.
Yeah, but she feels it doesn't feel like a woman, and that's a fact, right? Isn't that reality now?
I don't even think that that's what I don't even know that that's what she would say, and she never even said that. She just
Okay.
said,
Oh,
she
was being insulted by being called a woman.
yeah, because she wants to say she's trans. I mean, it was all to this woman. It was all just about getting mad. Obviously, like if you looked at the
Huh.
interaction, like it was just an excuse. Like, you know, hey, the teacher had set up some arbitrary rule, and you just broke it, so I'm going to tattle on you. And she knew she was doing it. You know what I
Sounds like
mean?
a
Like
keyboard warrior.
it would be like if there was a rule at an elementary school against squeaking your shoes after you came out inside from the rain, and some little boy, was running to go to the bathroom because he had to go really bad, and some little girl was like, "You squeaked your shoes, I'm telling." It's like, okay, you knew that he was not doing that on purpose, and you are actually just being a little like cunt. And that was what it was in that situation. Like the girl did not think that she was non-binary, very clearly, and she just had learned that if she said that she could get people in trouble and get mad at them. And granted, it wasn't like she was reporting this the people that she was arguing with to Facebook necessarily, as far as I know, but she was trying to socially chastise them. She was trying to like call them transphobic in a public setting, and the YouTube headquarters sides with her. And so what that says to me, and like, okay, so we know that Canada sides with her, right? Like we know that Bill C-16 is officially siding with this girl, saying that this girl is allowed to pull that crap. And of course they said, "Oh, well, people don't do that. It would only be used in the cases of the most extreme, blah, blah, blah." It's
like
bull.
like a landlord discriminating
Yeah.
against you because you're non-binary.
Yeah, or something. And it's like bull fucking shit. I have never like, no, it's the people who pull that crap are generally the least extreme, like the people who have the least reason to actually be offended, like this girl, are the people who actually decide to pretend to be offended. Like she's not actually offended that people think that she looks like a woman. She just wants to fucking lord
Control
over.
the scene. She wants to control the scene
Yeah,
by changing the rules.
yeah, she just wants, like, she just wants to be able to like rule over whatever group of gay guys she comes into contact with and force them all to be intersectionals. Like she wants, like, that seems to be the game to her for whatever fucking reason. Like, and the fucked up thing about that girl is that I looked at her profile photo because I was like, who is this girl? And she all has like photos of S&M, like sadistic women like dominating men with leather, having them tied up and shit. Like she's into that. So but it's just interesting to note that YouTube sides with that mentality. Like YouTube is totally ready to let her get away with that, and therefore if and YouTube sides with the Democratic Party. Obviously we know that YouTube very, very, very much is biased towards any channel that at all represents the left and the Democrats, and is very, very anti anything else. Like it's anti-Republican, it's anti-far right, it's anti-libertarian, it's anti-centrist, it's anti-me, who I don't even want to say I'm a centrist. I don't even know what I am. So if these people were in power, yeah, they would just it would be fascism. It would be full blown fascism. But I don't. But yeah. But fortunately, like they're showing just how crazy they are because like we have people like Maxine Waters just like acting a fool. Like that woman is insane. So
Well, I've been making videos warning the left. You're fueling Trump. His fans are loving it. The more you act like spoiled brats throwing a tantrum, the more popular he gets.
yeah,
And he only needs, what did he need to win 2016 when the anointed one lost? You know, he only needs the bare minimum, something that in with electoral college was learned decades ago, that you just don't. Why worry about California and Texas? Let's go after the little, a couple districts to flip a state.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're playing right into it, and I'm trying to warn them. And these are I guess because of my audience, my least watched videos, because I don't think people on the left are watching. But just like, hey, I'm seeing this, and people that I know outside of the internet that are like that. I'm like, you know what? You're just, oh, the blue wave, the blue wave. No, 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 not the way you're acting.
yeah, yeah. Well, no, it's gotten to the point where it's like, um, prior to the election, I was warning people like, "Hey, Trump is going to win, and I don't want that. So could you maybe knock it off?" Um, and then there was a certain point in the election campaign where, not publicly, like I wouldn't really admit this. I didn't think that the Democrats deserved to win anymore, and I was actually hoping that Trump was going to win just because of how batshit insane they were. The straw that broke the camel's back for me was when Hillary Clinton's campaign declared Pepe the Frog a hate symbol. Like it's so fucked up because like even people have the shortest, stupidest memory, and also they don't quite understand that there's a reason that things like that happen. Like they sort of think, oh, maybe it really was a hate symbol the whole time, and I didn't know. And it's like, you were sharing that meme in like 2013 yourself. It might as well have been Garfield the cat. It came from a webcomic. It wasn't even a conservative webcomic. Everybody was sharing that meme. It was the most popular cartoon meme guy on the entire internet. And the only reason that Hillary Clinton declared it to be a hate symbol was because a lot of people on the internet were using it to make fun of her campaign in some way or another, because the majority of the internet hated Hillary Clinton just in general. And so she figured, oh, I know, I'll just call everybody who uses that meme hate mongers, and that'll be a good idea. And obviously,
Deplorables. They were deplorables.
yeah, yeah, the deplorables, and it beyond backfired. It just made her look like a fucking dictator in the making. But what's messed up is that a lot of people forget now that the only reason that people are like, the only reason that Pepe the Frog did kind of become sort of the alt-right memes in many ways, the alt-right's meme in many ways, in many instances, is because she said that. And so a lot of people were like, well, cool, I'm going to start using it then. But prior to her saying that, it wasn't at all. Like, it was just this universally used meme
Like when the
that,
bully finds out what bothers you, they're going to really do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or like, if, 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 if some news story, like let's say there was an Inside Edition or like 60 Minutes report saying that like, there's a scourge of marijuana use on high school campuses or high school places, and every high school student that dresses in a certain way smokes weed, but that wasn't actually even true. Like they just sort of, kind of like the trench coat mafia or something. Like, let's say they said that every high schooler that wears a green belt is a marijuana smoker. Well, then a bunch of kids would get green belts the next day because they're like, well, I'm a weed smoker, cool, and it's the same sort of phenomenon. Like it's like that wasn't actually true until you said it, but now that you say it, a number of people will, you know, it's because you gave it a tribalistic emblem for people to actually exhibit. And yeah, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me when she did that. It was just that was insane. And now it just they double triple down, and it's worse and worse. And now we have people like Maxine Waters, who is an actual crazy person. That, do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, I know she is. Yeah,
Yeah,
representative from California.
yeah, she's a crazy person. Like she has a screw loose. She's worse than any Republican, you know, like I don't know who would be an equivalent to from the far right, like
Michelle Bachmann.
Patrick Buchanan or something maybe.
Well, yeah.
Like she says crazy stuff all the time. And the left is so racist that they cheer her on. Like they're like, "Oh, she's a strong black woman and she don't take no shit." And it's like, "No, she's a crazy person." Like you understand that. Like like they're like, "I don't care about respectability politics," and she don't care either. Like she could say it how it is. And it's like, that's not how no, respectability politics is how you actually get votes. You don't preach to the choir and expect to win elections. So you have this woman up there being all like, you know, in front of the house, and somebody's asking her questions that she doesn't want to answer, and she's like, "I don't want to answer that question. Nope. No, I'm reclaiming my time. I'm reclaiming my time. Do you have a question? I am reclaiming my time. I am reclaiming my time." And the left made memes about that. And it's like, oh, okay. So basically, she's Nicki Minaj in the house, and you think that that's really cool because she's black or something. When the professional thing would have been, I'm not going to answer any more of your questions. I'm going to move on to the next speaker, please, sir. If you don't give the microphone to somebody else, I'm going to ask security to remove you. You know, but she made this like big like sassy black woman show out of it, and the left cheered her on for it. And then it seems like she's developed a taste for that type of stardom or something. So now she's she's encouraging the, you know how Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this part.
Yeah. She's Sarah Huckabee Sanders,
the red hen.
Yeah, she was kicked out, and Maxine Waters is like, that was the right thing to do, and leftists are going to keep doing it, and we are going to confront everybody in the Trump administration, and we're going to tell them. And it's like, oh my God, yeah, that's not going to backfire.
That's like, a good impersonation.
I grew up with a lot of sassy black women around me.
No, I mean, you sounded like her.
yeah, I also went to theater school. I don't know, but you know, it's like, these people are so dumb. It's like they act like the Tea Party or something, except for the Tea Party was always vilified and never actually had a platform. Well, these people get to like actually be on the public stage and showed for what type of lunatics they really are. And it didn't work last time, and they think it's going to work again. And it's like, okay.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, you have to what a lot of people saw was not what I stand for. It's what I stand against, and we stand against that horrible person, Donald Trump. So vote for me. So you know, convince me that I should vote for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what they're doing instead is convincing us that they're worse. Like every time, reliably. Like it's like we're gonna fight fire with fire, and we're gonna beat him at his own game. And it's like, but his own game was predicated on the notion that you were already fighting fire with fire. Like you were the one who fired the shots, and he just fucking fired. Like he used to be a Democrat, and then he got disgusted with you people. And
well,
you're proving him right.
The other thing I saw was it's kind of like 2016, the reaction after the election. You know, and. My thought was, you know, when a bully in the schoolyard pushes you over and takes your lunch money, walks away laughing, and you're crying, guess what? He won and you lost and you're crying. And so when you fight a little dirty, Trump, he broke all the rules, and he won. So all these things that he did would have ended most Republicans' candidacies, but he did whatever he wanted, and it worked. The more he did it, the more it fed into, and what I saw was at the time that people were just tired of being told the politically correctness, told what to say and how to behave, and being talked down to.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes a lot further than that. Personally, I think that yes, that's true, but I think that that's a little bit of a rudimentary lacking of context. Like if I would, what I would add to the context to it, like what you're saying is right, but is that it's not simply that people don't like being talked down to by people who think that they're better than them, which is true, but people don't like being talked down to by people like fucking crazy people like Maxine Waters, who the only reason that people pretend to like her is because she's black. Like people look at fucking Francesca Ramsey or something and they're like, this woman is crazy, or not crazy, but she's just really, she's basically a Black Valley girl who says a bunch of untrue racist stuff, and she's paid probably millions of dollars by MTV to do this. And I see her constantly on my Facebook timeline because Facebook prioritizes decoded videos in the algorithm so that they always pop up. And I hate this. Like, why is this like supposed, like, why is Francesca Ramsey, who talks like a Valley girl, who says things that even I, like if I was like a white guy from the South who wasn't well educated, I didn't even graduate from high school necessarily because I had to start working, let's say. But even he can debunk Francesca Ramsey videos, and he's being talked down to by this Valley girl who happens to be black. And then if he says, wait, what she's saying is racist, and then they accuse him of being racist for saying that, that's the real problem, and it's like it's not simply that people are tired of being ordered around, it's that people are tired of the rules not making any sense, very obviously.
Yeah, the political correctness.
Yeah, political correctness is a weird term for, yeah, like arbitrary, like complicated arbitrary rules that one side decided upon that don't necessarily make any sense.
And they change because we see it comes up all the time. People that are on the one side of the right side of the tracks are now, tomorrow they're on the wrong side because they said the wrong thing. And so this is the problem I had with the extreme right for decades, that everyone I thought had to march in lockstep, and now we're seeing they're brutal. The left is brutal. If if you're a heretic, that's it. They want to burn. They want to burn that witch.
Yeah.
And like who was Rebecca Tuval? Do you? It was about a year ago. Rebecca Tuval wrote that article in the feminist journal Hypatia, I think, and I did a video on it. And so she was using the Rachel Dolezal transracial.
Oh, I remember
issue.
That article.
Right.
But explain it to the audience.
Yeah, so the transracial issue, well, okay, so if she can do that, she was, comparing it to transgender issues. Well,
yeah.
Now
and it was very balanced article.
It was, and they dogpiled on her for a number of reasons. One, she didn't, she's a white woman.
And when you say reasons, you mean non-reasons.
Right, exactly. She was a white woman who didn't, who
wasn't trans.
The advice of her betters, which are non-white lesbians, or I don't know. And the other thing was, I think the analysis was that if you take an issue like transracial, it's kind of like trans species, and then you link it, you connect it, tie it to transgender. You've just set it up. You've set up a straw man.
Uh-huh.
and that was one of the things that I think came out of it. But the main thing was that she was using terminology that wasn't here. She was a feminist, and she's trying to support both, opinions, and she got slaughtered, and they had to pull the article and apologize, and
Yeah.
her name was,
The real reason that they were offended was just because she was right. Like she was totally obviously right, like the real, like the part of the story that nobody ever tells you is that when that kid yelled, "The emperor's wearing no clothing," they cut off that little kid's head. You know what I mean?
I don't think she was. Well, I don't think she was trying to make transgenderism illegitimate.
I don't think so either.
I think
I
she
think that she
genuinely
absolutely
was
wasn't. I think that she was just saying like, hey, you just, this is this
same thing.
logical. Like, I don't think that the little kid was trying to say that the emperor is a fraud. I think that he was trying to
Oh,
say,
okay,
but he's
yeah,
not wearing any clothing.
right. So she was speaking the truth, and that wasn't, you
Yeah,
know,
like when a ship is when a ship is sinking, there's a bunch of holes. I speak in metaphors altogether too much. When a ship is sinking, there's a bunch of holes, and the captain kind of knows it, but he knows that he's going down with the ship. Like, he knows. Like, let's say it's a warship, and he's the last of his fleet, and there's a bunch of holes, and everything is going to happen, and then his one of his underlings, like one of the ranking officers, comes up to him and he says, "Captain, the ship is sinking. Should we get to the life rafts? Let's get to the right life rafts. We could save some people." And the captain just like shoots the guy because he's like, "I don't even want to fucking hear it." Like I think that might be kind of what's going on here.
well, that's yeah, that was an eye opener. And Brett Weinstein. I mean, you couldn't get as much left, and then Lindsey Graham in
Lindsay Shepard.
Lindsay. I'm sorry, Lindsay Shepard in Ontario, in Canada. Um, she's about as left as you can get, from her own reckoning,
She
and
was.
yeah, I mean, you don't say I'm for this, I'm for this, I'm for this, and just, who is she trying to please? She's not making that stuff up. And if she's gone to college in Ontario, she's probably is all those things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, it's a very strange situation.
you know, you.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just think that ultimately what we're seeing, the simplest explanation always tends to be the best. Never attribute to actual malice what could be attributed to incompetence. I think what we're really seeing is just the late stages of the financial collapse of leftist politics in not just the Western world, but even the global alliances. Like the Democratic Party. One of the things that okay, so there's two rather really 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 crucial like details that are always in the back of my mind now that shape the way that I view all of this that almost nobody ever talks about. Like people just act like these things aren't really true, either because they didn't ever really hear about them or because they didn't properly analyze just how important these things are. And they were not very well publicized, either of them. The first being that the uh, the Democratic Party itself has been bankrupt for a long time, and that came out in the what's her name?
2016 with the
Yeah.
where they were shilling for Hillary, the
Well,
DNC.
yeah, and the person who really, really blew the whistle on that, I mean, like a number of people that kind of like came out, but the person who like is definitely telling the truth and knows this was
Tulsi Gabbard.
Donna Brazil.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the woman who took over after Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So, all those completely corrupt people were implicated with the WikiLeaks of being completely corrupt, and a bunch of them resigned as a result of the WikiLeaks, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was the DNC chair. She, as soon as the WikiLeaks came out, she just stepped down from her position, which is basically as good as guilty. Like,
Yeah.
so
Well, I mean,
obviously.
it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, but like no, but it's not like people were actually even reading them. Like it was thousands of emails, and but I guess Debbie knew exactly what had been leaked, and she was like, "Oh shit, I'm just gonna throw a smoke bomb and then get off stage," like
Well, they
um
were, yeah, they plotted to get the anointed one on the ticket.
yeah, and so Donna Brazil took over in her place, and Donna Brazil didn't was not had not apparent according to Donna Brazil, and I don't really know how true this is, but Donna Brazil wrote a book that she released within about a year after the election, and Donna Brazil claimed that she had actually really liked Bernie Sanders and that she wanted to believe that he had a fair chance. But as soon as she became the chair of the DNC, she learned the truth. And the truth was this: Obama had bankrupted the Democratic Party for a number of years. And by the time the Democratic Party was entering into the 2016 campaign, they were just not going to have money, like spending power in the way that they used to at all. And the only person that was going to be able to pull together the really, really large scale donations that they would need to potentially face off against the Republicans was Hillary Clinton, because of all of Hillary Clinton's connections on Wall Street and with people like George Soros. So they basically just anointed Hillary Clinton at that moment because of the massive amount of debt that the Democratic Party was actually in. And that's why the election was rigged. And Donna Brazil learned all of that as soon as she became the chair, so according to her. And so it was just kind of like dumped onto her lap. It was like, hey, so our this is the ship that we're running, and it's completely crooked and it's sinking, and you have to be the captain of it. Surprise, surprise. Careful what you wish for, Donna. You always wanted to be and so what that says is that the Democrats, like, and we kind of know this in terms of just how much the national debt continued to go up under Obama's administration. Like it ranges from either doubling or quadrupling or it's doubling or tripling the national debt ever since the Bush years. And granted, that's to be taken into account where the recession happened like right at the end of the Bush administration. But at the same time, Obama started saying that the economy got better, right? But here's the other thing, and this is the other thing that I was going to say, that there's two very, very important things. The first is that the Democrats just drastically continued to bankrupt America and even bankrupt their own party. But the second thing, and this is the really, really crazy thing that almost nobody really knows, is that Obama signed into law, with the help of Congress and the House, a bill that legalized the usage of American people of propaganda on the American people in 2012. And you can look this up. He overturned the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which put some restrictions in place about what the American government could do in terms of just directly funneling money into media organizations and probably universities. I haven't read the whole bill. And Obama just straight up overturned it so they can just lie. And that is, if you remember, a lot changed in the media around 2012. That was when Black Lives Matter first really started with Trayvon Martin, and then PBS and NPR just stopped being what they used to be. Like PBS and NPR used to be like fairly reliable in terms of actually seeming kind of fair and balanced, and now they're just obviously Democratic Party shills. And I think that what sort of happened is that the Democrats just bankrupt America, bankrupt themselves, and then made it legal to lie to everybody about it. And if you look at everything through that lens, it's pretty undeniable why things are the way that they are now.
Well, I didn't know about that, but I did know that during George Bush, the administration before Obama, they had they were pouring money into like the Armstrong Williams things, and I don't know if you know about the VNRs, the video news releases.
No.
Okay, so VNRs are legal. So you have there's a new thing coming out where we're going to we're going to help poor people or go to this clinic to get these these vitamins or what have you. And so they put out releases. It can be in print, but VNRs are video news release. So they it's like a public service thing. What Bush did was create the Bush administration created fake news programs, little clips that were inserted, that were sent to networks all over the country, and it appeared to be a news. So when they played the VNR, it was inserted into the news program. It appeared to be part of the show because there was a person at a desk, and they had it was produced the same way as a news thing was. So they were paying off people to be shills. So it started there.
What type of things, like what type of content was it?
I actually I don't remember. There was a time, it seems like a long time ago, but I do remember when that came out. And I remember there was this here. Did you ever see this? And I was like, yeah, I did. That's a VNR, and so I looked it up. And so, people can say things like I'm saying it right now. You could look it up. And so I did research it, and sure enough, they were doing that. And it's the same thing with This Is Either Party. If you watch the news and there's bad news about any president, what do you see when they're talking about it? Good, bad, ugly, whatever. You see the president looking presidential, saluting troops in front of Air Force One, things like that. That's because the White House supplies the videos to be shown in the background, and the news networks go along. All news networks go along with it. So next time you're watching bad news about any president, watch what's playing in the background, and you know that no matter what's said, what you're seeing is actually what's going to change your mind. I mean, if they're killing a puppy in the background saying everything's great, you're going to be horrified. So, that was the VNR started with Bush, and so I'm not surprised I didn't know about the, I'll look that up. So you said that there was a law passed. Congress that was during while the Democrats were still.
Yeah, that was 2012. It was actually right before the election. It was in May of 2012.
Well, they had lost the House then, I think. So it would have been.
Yeah. It's really weird. Actually, it's a very strange story, and it's been very, very underreported upon.
Huh.
And I really wish that there was more discussion about what exactly was happening and why exactly it was happening. But like, to be perfectly truthful, if I were to discuss it too much more, I would be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. But I think that
this would be taken down as hate speech.
Yeah, but I think that the best thing to say is simply that the difference between Republican and Democrat House members is actually a lot more complicated than people think, and they're not necessarily opposing factions. It's largely a lot of people that are establishment or are authoritarian who work with each other. And there's like the John McCains of the world, who is like, okay, he's a Republican, but like just he
a little bit of a renegade.
Well, renegade. I would say it's like he's so establishment. Like he seems to be like he hates everything about Trump, like the new administration, and to the point where it's absurd. And there has to be reasons for that having to do with alliances with the Democratic Party. And I've talked to people that say now, and I don't even know enough about him to say this, but um, that John McCain was always sort of a like controlled opposition, and he was never supposed to win that election anyway, and things like that. Um, and I don't really know. So it's hard to
Well,
really.
I was I would say Bob Dole fit that bill more.
Well, yeah, that would not be
he
that
was. I
would.
don't think he had a snowball's chance to win that one.
Yeah. So
Well, that no, I mean, there's a percent of politics, maybe a large percent that's you have to be cynical about that. It's all money and power, and then you have people that are actually. I think most politicians, a lot of them start out as sincere and genuine, and then they get sucked up into the money raising cycle, and then you're no longer your own boss if you have to have your hand out 52 weeks a year.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is that uh you yeah, what you're saying applies to this. If you are in Washington, like if you are the sitting congressperson and you've been there for like however many terms, because like some of these people have been there for like 35
Yep,
years or
yep,
something,
yep.
and the economy has just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse on your watch. Even if you are a Christian conservative, like actual traditionalist, you have something to gain by agreeing with Obama that you should start lying to the citizens so that they will keep voting for you. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of
Like, like,
ways.
like, like we would want to say that the Republicans would want to get Obama out of office because they would want a Republican president. But then Obama would say, okay, but things are going really, really, really bad. Don't you want to keep your job? Like, because like if the people knew just how bad we were doing economically, we could all be voted out of office. And let's just not let them know. And somehow they just sort of agreed on that. Like, I don't know. But
Hmm.
I don't, and I really don't know because it's just been so underreported upon. No one really talks about it.
Well, that's a. I have a lot of my own views about how the sausage is made, and I think that one thing that we've learned is there's no like the finger pointing after November 2016. There's no one simple explanation for. So we just talked about a whole lot of things that we think the DNC, Hillary did wrong, and a lot of people running around with blue hair screaming at people and calling them racist and alt right. And I mean, there's a lot of things that I think Hillary was. I mean, she was damaged goods going in, and so was Trump. I mean, so they both had a negative ratings.
Uh-huh.
So there's so many ways to look at one thing. When you say it's underreported, I watch news from around the world, English language news, and I see things that I'm like scratching my head. Well, that's happening here, and I'll put on a U.S. network and nothing. There'll be nothing
Yeah.
about it. So when you Google it, you find out, yeah, it is, but it's not being talked about.
Well, that's the thing about the legalizing propaganda on the American people. I don't think that that was something that you would hear about much overseas either.
Well, I
Um,
mean, I'm talking
I-
about like just things that are. I I can't even remember the last one. I was just in shock that wasn't being. Um, it's so
was
regular that
how long ago was this? Would you say that
well, this
last one
this
was?
this happens all the time where I watch, something from another country and they'll be talking about it's not something exciting or
Mhm.
sensational, but it's important and it's not being reported here.
Mhm.
I can't remember. It's such a regular thing, It's
Yeah.
kind of like
No, I remember that happening a lot a number of years ago, but I've noticed it's happening less and less. You know, it's like the foreign news that it seems like Americans are ingesting. Well, maybe it's just that we're not watching the right foreign news, but it seems like the stuff that people share on Facebook and everything is the Guardian UK and the BBC, which you know might as well be CNN and Everyday Feminism for at this point, largely. You know,
sure.
the BBC has some good stuff on it, and even the Guardian occasionally actually will have a decent article or two. But it's such far leftist biased, and it's so flagrantly dishonest. And you know, the BBC is like firing people for being white at this point, and
Or
like
not hiring for being white. So what? Like what? Here's another situation. I was talking to somebody about this. The New York Times, things like the New York Times. Now, I listen to Free Thought Radio a lot during the day. Actually, I haven't for the last several weeks, but for years I've been listening to Free Thought Radio, and it's basically an amalgamation of podcasts, secular podcasts. And one of the I can't even remember what, because there's so many. One of the regular shows, they show how the New York Times not only got it wrong but misled us.
mhm.
And then sure enough, I'll look it up, and so the person I'm talking to is like, well, such as what? I'm like, you know, it happens so regularly. Like, I don't like, you know what I mean? It's like if,
Yeah.
you know, 9/11, planes flew into the building, we remember. But if something happens every week, you
Yeah.
just kind of like, it's just, yeah, and throw it on the pile.
Yeah,
And
so somebody asked me on Facebook, like I said that Francesca Ramsey is completely intellectually dishonest and actually a liar and behaves really horribly as a human being. And they said, "Oh yeah, such as," and I was like, "Oh my God, I don't remember. It all came out like a year or 2 years ago. Really? Like
I didn't
I
know anything about her until I saw the little war that Andy Worski started with her.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I watched, I would see her videos sometimes, and I was like, who is this woman? She's like completely horrible, and these things. Because I actually always, I growing up in Seattle, and I was forced to go to like propaganda seminar workshop things where they tried to like tell us all about the same kind of crap as her. It same exact stuff was around in the 90s.
You mean like white privilege and white shame and
Well, basically, yeah, and trying to redefine the word racism and
yeah.
trying to say that white people don't have any culture and everything, and trying to say that America doesn't have any culture except for black culture or something, you know, like I don't know, like everything in American culture was actually created by black people, including root beer.
And peanuts, don't you forget that. Peanut
and
butter, whatever.
yeah, yeah, peanut butter. That was like the
They
invention
invented
of
peanuts. I don't know.
yeah, no, so um that stuff, like I had to go to that little workshop. My mom like twisted my arm into going to that, and because my mom is kind of like an SJW and kind of gullible hippie woman, um and she doesn't respond well to people bullying her. She's very susceptible to shame and everything, and if somebody is like really insistent upon shaming her, it does not really occur to her that maybe it's them with the problem. She thinks that she must have probably done something wrong, and so she wants to try to correct that. And I'm not like that. By
Well,
the
she is
time
their
I
target audience then.
what?
She is their target audience.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. She's like, you know, upper middle class white woman who like could not only, you know, get fully brainwashed by them, but like might even, you know, pay them $200 so that that her son could potentially get brainwashed. Except for it didn't work on me, you know. So I went to this little seminar thing and sat there just kind of like in not in shock, but just completely aghast, like appalled by the crap that they were saying and how horrifically they were um treating the young people in the room. Like they were trying desperately. So she had been to one of these like little undoing racism workshops, but it was one for adults. And she said that it would get, kind of intense and it was bullying a little bit, but and the instructors made it very clear that like you better not challenge them or
Sounds like an EST,
no, yeah,
like
like
that.
landmark forum, fucking self help, fucking cult shit. It was exactly like that. It was, um, and yeah, the instructors made it clear that they knew everything and that you didn't, and that kind of a thing. Um, but the thing is, I don't think that they were as bad. I have this distinct impression, and honestly, I kind of want to go to another one now, um, because I want to see what they would be like to adults. And because I have a suspicion that they were even worse to the kids. Like, because mine was for middle school through high school age kids, and they were just horrific, like the way that they treated the kids. And I think it's because they knew that they could get away with it. And um, so there was this like poor young white male who was like who he ended up being the token white male who talked because as soon as he talked, nobody else who was I think that there was maybe only two white males there because there's probably only like 25 students that were there, and there was something like 12 Asian kids, maybe 5 or 6 black kids, a few mixed kids, a few white girls, and then maybe like him and I were the white males, and I was like 16 and he was like 12 or
So you
13.
guys represented the patriarchy.
Yeah, except for they could tell, they figured out really quick that I was too smart for them and that they weren't going to trick me, right? So they picked on him the whole time. And looking back on it, I mean, I was not prepared for this. But there's this big part of me that wishes I could like go back in time and like stick up for him better, because at this point in my life I would, like if I was there and I saw them doing that to this like 12, 13-year-old boy and trying to like humiliate him over and over and over for over the course of 2 days, I would not be okay with it, and I would stand up to them, and I would fucking freak the fuck out. I would be like, no, you can't. Okay, so let me just sort of explain what the type of thing that they did to him. The very first thing that happened in the entire workshop, like after they explained that they're right about everything and that you better not challenge them and blah 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 blah, and I could tell, like I was
Like a
like, okay,
cult.
yeah, I was like, these people are fucking crazy. I can already tell by the way that they're talking, because that's not how you have a discussion. And then they stupidly, they were like, so let's talk about race and racism. Does anyone have anything to say? And everybody's sitting around like, I'm kind of scared. And this kid was dumb enough to, I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe there was a little bit of like white male and privilege entitlement, like maybe he'd never been treated like he was complete and utter dirt, maybe for whatever reason in his life.
Oh, so he reacted. He knee jerked. Is that what
He
happened?
he raised his hand and he said, "Well, yeah, I'll just say what I have noticed around me is I notice a lot of," and I quote, he says, "I notice a lot of reverse racism, mostly because it seems, yeah, you can imagine what happened. They literally started yelling at him and were like, reverse racism is not a thing. It's not possible to be race because like it was just blah 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 blah
Yeah,
like that.
reverse racism is not a thing, just racism.
Yeah, but then they
Yeah.
also redefined race.
Right.
Basically, we all know the drill.
Yeah.
They're allowed to hate white people, and actually we should hate white people, and white people should hate white people. White people should help them hate white people. White people should give them money to hate white people. So they did that to him, and then it got to the point where like everybody else in the class, like they tried to kind of pull the same crap on me a teeny bit, um but I never gave them the ammo. Like I was like they figured out pretty quick that like I was not going to give them anything to work with. I mostly just sat there like awkwardly, like not saying anything, which if you can imagine is very strange scenario. um,
You were younger. You had a lot to learn, right?
um Well, yeah, but I also knew it's like these are crazy people. Like
Okay.
they will use anything that
It's
I
kind of like
say.
it's kind of like mouthing off to a cop, kind of stupid.
Yeah, yeah, or like going on a fucking blood sports stream when they were going to lie about you. I just didn't go, even though like sure I had a lot to say about, do you remember that little period, the blood sports thing?
Was that like 2 years ago?
No, it was a few months ago.
Oh, wait a minute.
It was like the Kumite and Mr. Medicare and Andy Worski. They
Yeah,
would bait
yeah,
they would
yeah.
they
The
would
live streams. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they would bait people onto streams to basically just lie about them a bunch and insult them a bunch and try to get them flustered, and then they would use whatever the person, like if the person reacted in any way, then they would try to like keep it going and try to then they would talk about the person while they weren't there and try to get the person to come back, and it would just be this like never ending thing. And it was very clear, like, okay, the only way to win at this is to just not go, and like sure, if I could get one of these people into a fair discussion on a live stream, just one on one, I would just completely take them apart piece by piece and prove that they're a liar and that they don't have any arguments and that they never did.
Right, and I
But
think wasn't it more than one person against one person
oh, it
though?
was always that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was always a setup every time. Like they would lie about somebody on Twitter and then try to get them outnumbered to defend themselves, where they would continue to lie about them publicly, and then they would have.
It was Candace Owens kind of sucked into one of those?
It was kind of similar to how.
Yeah, it wasn't. I know she wasn't on that,
Yeah,
but that was like,
yeah.
it was like sharks smelling blood in the water. And then,
Yeah, yeah, and well, yeah, and there's this weird thing that kind of happens where uh
I
this
tuned into some of those streams. I just wasn't really. It was
no
kind of like watching Howard Stern or something.
well, yeah, but worse because Howard Stern is at least like somewhat intellectually honest,
Right.
and like kind of funny. But these people, the only reason people watched was because there was so much drama. But the only reason that there was drama is because they couldn't stop lying about people.
Hmm.
Um, so it's the same. It was the same kind of like um unfairness. Like they were trying to set up the white people in the room to get them to like react, and then they would, use whatever they said against them. And so I figured out very quickly just to not at all. But
Like if you stick
um
your head out, they're gonna knock it down, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they figured out that I was smarter than them. Like that I was that I could already tell that their bullshit was like, cuz when they started talking about how racism is privilege plus power, and or race privilege plus power or whatever. And so a white person can't, or a black person can't be racist in America because America is a racist nation built on the foundations of slavery and genocide and blah 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 blah.
Right.
Um,
It's
I raised
systematic. It's systematic power
Yeah, and I was
structure.
like, I
Right.
thought about that for about, like, so they're talking about it and talking about, and I'm like, okay, that's not true. That's just dumb. Like that's just fucking stupid. Like I know that that's stupid. Let me think about it. I was brainstorming in my head. I wasn't even like listening to them. Like I was like, I just sort of tuned out. I was like, how can I figure how can I show the audience? Because I was like, I need to show the people in the classroom that what they're saying doesn't make any sense. Because this is not acceptable that they're telling kids this, and it sounds like kids are believing them. Um, and so I raised my hand and I said, "So you're saying that a white person, like only white people can be racist in the United States, and that a white person cannot experience racism in the United States?" And they're like, "Yes, that's true." And I'm like, "Okay, first of all, is that the dictionary definition?" And they said, "No, it's not." And it was like, okay.
No, of
Um,
course it's not.
yeah, yeah, and it's like, okay, you realize that you're supposed to have an explanation about why it's not, and why you think you can change the dictionary. And no, it's like, oh, let me guess, white people wrote the dictionary. Yeah, white people created the entire English language. So does that mean that black supremacists get to rewrite it all, and now we just get to speak? Like, what the fuck argument is that? That
They
doesn't make any.
colonialized the dictionary.
Yeah, what the fuck kind of argument is that? Like,
That's
like
postmodernism.
it makes it yeah, it makes no sense. So it is postmodernism, and
Yes.
postmodernism is well, okay, let me finish this little
Okay.
thought about the racism thing. um I said, so if I can't experience racism in the United States, if I were to fly to Japan, could I experience racism? Because Japanese people are actually a very wealthy nation, and the majority is Asian, and they have all the institutional power over there. Could I experience racism if I were in Japan? And the woman said, "That's a very good question, and I'll get back to that later." And of course
Meaning,
she
I don't know.
and no, meaning yes.
You
No,
got her off
no,
for
no, no,
talking
no.
points.
Meaning, oh shit, he knows that I'm full of shit. I'm gonna just deflect and pretend like he never asked me that question.
Hmm.
But once I did that, it was like they knew that they weren't gonna that I was a bad seed, and so they never tried to put me on the spot because they knew that if they did put me on the spot, I might outmaneuver them and embarrass them in front of the class. So instead, when it came to um trying to fuck with white people and try to make white people look bad, they would do things like this. They would be like, so um what parts of your culture, as like they'd ask the different kids of different racial minority and ethnic groups, what type of what parts of their culture do they appreciate the most? And so they'd ask the Asian kid, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, my mom cooks this really good soup from Vietnam. It's called pho, and my mom
Mm.
makes the best pho, blah 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 blah." And they'd ask the black people, and they'd be like, "I like hip hop music and blah blah blah." And then they turn to the white kid and they say like, "So what about you? Huh? What about you?"
I
And
like the rebel flag.
and they were always trying to pick on. And the funniest part, like I remember one very specific thing where they said like, what one thing about white supremacy is that they have Native American, or sorry, not Native Americans, minority group neighborhoods classified into different slurs. So black people, where do black people live? And everyone said the ghetto. And they said, where do Native American where do Native American people live? The reservation, the res. And then they said, but what's a neighborhood for poor white people? And then this black girl was like, trailer park. you know, because obviously, and they were like, no, no, that's not right. And everyone's like, why not? And then they had some like weird explanation that honestly I don't even remember because it must have just not made any sense. They probably said a trailer park is a place where people who can't even afford houses live, and there are black people in trailer parks, but blah 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 blah. And people are like, I don't know, I'm thinking it's trailer park because that's whatever that's. If you meet a poor white person, the biggest insult that you could say is that they're trailer park trash. That's what.
So it's probably something like they called it downtown or something, right?
No, no,
Or
they
uptown
no,
or
they no,
whatever.
they were trying to say that there is no slang
Oh,
for
okay.
a poor white
Oh,
neighborhood. And
oh.
then and so but the black girl tried to argue with them, and she's like, I don't know. I always say that I say that they're trailer park trash. I don't know what you're talking about. And then they're like, okay, well maybe you say that, but I bet we'll call the white kid James. They're like, but I bet that's not what James would say. What do you call a neighborhood for poor white people, James? And he was like, trailer park. And everybody started laughing, and then they started just yelling at him again because like he had like they were hoping that he would say, I don't know, I guess I don't have any slang words for
Oh,
poor
okay.
white
In other
people.
words, whites can't be stereotyped, right?
Yeah, they were trying to say that whites can't be stereotyped, and also there's no
Right.
white culture, and which was like somebody might have said, well, what about rock music? I mean, and then they're like, rock was appropriated from black people, blah 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 blah. They had all of these points that like they were trying to just drill into everybody's head, and they were and they didn't even make sense, and they used this one kid as a scapegoat to be like, see, we can bully him into submission, and because of the fact that we beat this like 13-year-old kid in an argument where he was outnumbered, then we're right about everything. And then the 16-year-old white boy won't even talk. Like I would like they would try to they maybe tried once or twice to put me on the spot, and they couldn't get a gotcha moment on me, and they were like, "See, but I'm right about everything. We're right about everything because we got a gotcha moment on this 13-year-old boy over and over." That happened to me in the 1990s, and it was a really eye-opening experience. Like because I didn't know, like I had maybe seen black supremacists on TV and had heard about like Louis Farrakhan and shit, but like I didn't understand that it was like an actual thing, you know. And I trained myself in how to deal with these people ever since then, because I went to college in New York City and lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I encountered numerous people who were kind of like that, and I also encountered a lot of racial minorities and black people who had also encountered these people but did not like them. Like one of my best friends from college is a mixed race girl whose mother is Jamaican, and hated the kids that were like that. Like because Jamaican people especially have a problem with like black supremacist Americans, because Jamaican black people think that African Americans are lazy. It's like this stereotype that from Jamaican to African Americans, it's just like this weird thing. They think all African Americans are lazy. Both things are stereotype. I'm sure not all Jamaicans think that, and but so she had a big problem with the weird black supremacist entitlement stuff, and so I was always thinking about talking points against this stuff, and like thinking in my head, well, what is white culture in America? Because I know there is some. And so now if somebody asks me, well, what is white culture? I'd be like, well, root beer. Did you know that they don't have root beer even in England? Did you know that? Because a lot of people, because a lot of people don't know that. And then country and folk music, American musicals, the greater portion of American novelists, like list seriously goes on and on and on. Hollywood movies,
Tennessee
like
Williams.
if you were to go to somewhere like I don't know, Argentina or something, and tell them that there isn't any of the arguments coming from the weird, postmodern race smash the white male patriarchy, like people for many years. And when I saw Francesca Ramsey videos, it was very easy for me to just be like, oh, but she's wrong about everything. Like I know that because I've been thinking about this for a really long time. But what I forgot is that like last decade, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, people said that they agreed with me. Like if I were to like make fun of black racists or something, they'd be like, yeah, they're so dumb. They think it's cool to hate white people. What a bunch of dumbasses. And I'm thinking in my head, I was naively thinking that they agreed with me for the right reasons. Like they agreed with me because they had really thought about it and thought about just how messed up it is when these people start like trying to say that there's no white culture and that black people invented everything and blah 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 blah. Because I had thought about that. Like I had actually encountered full-blown black supremacists. But when I was hanging out with people last decade who agreed that black racists were stupid, that's all that they agreed with. All they agreed with was that black racists are stupid. They didn't understand what the black racists arguments actually were and how stupid they were if you broke it down. So then these people were susceptible to being brainwashed by it and feeling all this sort of like white guilt when it came out around 2013 2014 was when it really started popping on the airwaves.
It's so obvious when you listen to people like that. So we're fighting racism. Sit down and shut up. You're white.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like it takes all of like 5-10 seconds to realize it's a fraud.
Yeah.
And so when I don't remember what organization I was in where we're supposed to learn how to get along with people. It's like this new thing, people that are different than us. And I said, that's really stupid because every day of our lives we're around people that are politically different, that are skin color's different, religions are different, different ideologies, and we work together, and we were friends, and we were in the same neighborhood. And I guess if you're an exclusive white or exclusively black or Irish or German, that sort of thing, that's a little different. But most of us get along with the rest of the human race. And it's kind of a silly proposition to be making, splitting us back into tribes when we've had generations of people fighting for us getting along.
Yeah.
And a lot of blood, a lot of blood was spilled for that. A lot of, and a lot of inequality of people not being able, men, women, and minorities not being able to vote, non-landholding men, that sort of thing. And so when you see that, it's so obvious.
Yeah, I think I like I said, this was sort of the starting point. I do think it ties back to money. Like the Democratic Party continued to bankrupt the nation and bankrupt itself, and they did not have any promises for essentially anybody. They didn't have there was no way of like painting themselves as the good guys, and so they had to just try to like concoct fear and divisiveness into being a winning strategy in some way. Like, okay, well, we're going to put all of our bets in demonizing the opposition, and also in making it so that people don't feel intellectually inclined to think for themselves. And so that's where all of intersectionality came from, where there's the low-hanging fruit du jour. Like, you can do a Google search for any type of person, and basically any type of person, you can find articles about how they're problematic. So white gay men, obviously very problematic. We're probably hated more than white straight men, by virtue of the fact that like we're seen as like this like constant traitors who also happen to be white men. And then black
Jews are now problematic because of Israel.
Oh, they've been problematic for a while. Yeah, because Muslims give a lot of money to the DNC.
Oh boy. Well, here's the thing that that ties into what we've been talking about, and so Muslims are a very small minority in this country, and a lot of places in the world, in the West, and so they're a minority. They're like a protected species, and if you criticize, and I do criticize any religion, and I especially criticize Islam, so now I'm Islamophobic. And what happens, the problem is you mentioned people agreeing with you about black supremacists for the wrong reasons. There's people out there that actually hate
Arabic
Muslims
people
because they're Muslim.
Yeah.
And so,
or because they're Arabic.
Right. And so I don't like the ideology. It's funny because they seem to, the people on the far left, far left, seem to like want to nuzzle the Muslims, and Linda Sarsour saying, oh, the hijab is an empowerment for women and stuff. And it's actually this symbol of the biggest symbol of the patriarchy, domination over women. And yet they're so most of these people that are in these these parades that are embracing the Muslims, if they'd had that parade over in Iran or Saudi Arabia, they some other countries, they'd be thrown off a building.
They would certainly be corralled by the police and be beat up or something.
And look, I mean, a heterosexual woman that gets raped in Saudi Arabia gets accused. That's having an affair. That's you're.
Yeah. Unless she gets 4 men to testify on her behalf, she gets stoned to death.
Right. So somebody that's just a heterosexual woman that's visiting from another. That was a couple of years ago. You remember that? The woman that got in trouble for being assaulted. Because when you go to the police in a country with Sharia law and you say these men attacked me, you're admitting you had an affair with these men, and they're married men.
Yeah.
Oh. So, but they didn't admit it. You admitted that you did it. So you're saying you're an adulteress.
Yeah.
So that's
But,
how it
but
is.
people
And
don't
then,
even know about that. A lot of them, yeah. That's
yeah,
what you're saying.
so they're like a protected species. They're not a minority in Saudi Arabia or Iran, and many other places, even Indonesia, right? So it's that whole thing with you're a white person in America. You can be you can be racist. Black people can't. But what if you move to Nigeria or you know another part of the world? Like you mentioned Japan. I would, for some reason I wouldn't think of Japan, but they're probably one of the most homogenous populations because of their isolation and their culture.
Yeah.
That was a good pick. But I wanted to ask you about the Kilroy event because you were listed as one of the. You were actually on the website for a little while.
Yeah, without my knowledge. I only found that out later.
I think you were surprised to find it out.
Yeah.
I seen it, and so I didn't think to take a screenshot of it because I didn't know that it was going to be changing every month.
Yeah, I first saw it in a Thunderfoot video.
Oh.
I know, I was like he was scrolling through the creators, and then I was like, wait, that's me. It was strange. So, yeah,
Well,
what about it?
Thunderfoot's
What
the
do you
one
want to know?
that kind of tilted me in this direction. So not too long ago, because I was at the Reason rally in Washington D.C. in 2016. I was there in 2012 too. And Thunderfoot, I got home and 2016 Reason rally wasn't was a small thing compared to the one 4 years earlier, and he was doing videos about how the SJWs had taken over, and I'm like, what? And so I started doing research and found out, all the stuff I mentioned. I listened to Free Thought Radio a lot, and Atheism Plus came up, and all these different Elevator Gate, and I was just, it's just another story. And then I connected them all. It was just isolated stories. Gamergate, Elevator Gate, Sarkeesian, all that stuff. So that opened my eyes. And around the same time, they were playing podcast of Pat Condole. I don't know if you're familiar with him. And at first I was shocked because you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to talk shit about another culture. He was talking about the Muslims. And then when somebody makes sense, when they make sense, you listen. Like that 2-day thing you went to when you were young, it didn't, from the get-go, it didn't make sense. You were suspicious, right?
Yeah.
But when somebody is talking and you feel integrity. Oops. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, crap. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yes. I think I moved my hand and turned the headphones off. Yeah, so so Thunderfoot's talking about the SJWs hijacked the Reason rally, and then when I saw his, he had screenshots to the website, I went there and I was like, you know what, that is really excessive to be obsessing over people sexually harassing people and like we're in America, like there's laws against attacking people and stuff, and they have to point that out on their website. It seemed excessive, like. And then some people made the point that at the time that if you have to, I mean, people are going to be afraid to go to secular conferences because all those warnings, you're going to get trapped in an elevator with some guy who's going to be polite to you and ask you up to his room for a cup of coffee,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what does this have to do with Kilroy?
It doesn't, except for you said something that kind of jogged my memory. So I'm sorry. Go on.
Well, no.
You mentioned
Thunderfoot,
and that triggered me.
Oh, Well, Kilroy is a kind of an interesting thing. I think especially to keep in mind at this very moment in time. So keep in mind, I have literally never been to a single YouTube or like skeptic, rationalist, uh, atheist, secular convention. Period. I just have never been at all. Um, I and out of the YouTubers that people, have heard of, like people who actually have over 10,000 subscribers and know a few people, I've been on for a particularly short amount of time. I'm one of the last people to kind of get on YouTube and make a name for myself, before it became virtually impossible to grow as a channel if you were small, you know?
Yeah.
Because yeah, like I got on, started making videos in mid June 2016. And by the end of, or by early 2017, they throttled just about every small channel, to the point where it was really hard to find our videos. And uh, and at this point, even my Twitter is throttled. So like almost nobody ever sees my tweets. And um,
Well, that's, and me included. I don't see them at all.
yeah, yeah, no, and I tweet every time I upload a video. There's automatically a tweet. And I supposedly have 1,700 followers. You'd think that people would see them sometimes, but I have a new Twitter account, by the way. I hope you follow it. Um, it's at Prince of Queens with two Z's. Uh, so that being said, I did not go to VidCon last year. It didn't really seem like a particular possibility to me, to go. I didn't have money. There was things going on in my personal life anyway, and um, I didn't think about whether or not I would fit in with the people who were there. I knew that like Wizard of Cause and Jeff Holiday were going. I knew them, but like other than that, I wasn't sure who I would talk to. Um, and um, I also knew Based Mama, at that time, and I knew Sister Danger ended up going. And I knew all of those people. I probably knew a few others, but it's not like it seemed like something where I could actually go. Well, Kilroy came as a result of the crowd of people at VidCon. They called themselves, there was an actual term for this, if people remember. They called there was the YouTube heroes, and then there was the people who called themselves the YouTube villains. And so everybody from like Blair White to Shoe on Head to Armor Skeptic to Sargon to
Sargon, right?
Computing Forever, they were all there and they were hanging out with each other and like kind of causing a ruckus. It looked like I don't want to say a ruckus, but like they were being loud in the streets, and like they even hung out with like Lacey Green, and Sargon made up with her, and like I guess apologized about being mean to her on the internet, and being like, I think he sort of, from what I understand, basically said, like, I don't think that you're a bad person,
Yeah,
Lacey.
I saw the videos, and she was like had the little phone videos on Twitter where she was
Yeah,
crying,
yeah,
and
yeah, and she was like, I feel that the best thing for me to do is forgive him for it, because he does seem to want forgiveness, and is offering, to make peace, and that's what I want to do, and blah blah blah. So all of that happened, but then YouTube, as I was sort of describing before, with the way that they gave me a hate speech strike and cited against me, even though I didn't do anything wrong. YouTube sided against the Sargon crowd, you know, and Anita Sarkeesian was rude to Sargon and called him a shitbag and human garbage, or whatever, trash garbage human, or whatever.
garbage human. Yeah,
Yeah, and that was a big deal. That was a really big deal. That big, like, because it was such a big deal that Anita Sarkeesian even like wrote about it on Feminist Frequency, which, like she always, her strategy of dealing with her critics is to basically pretend like they're not even real. She doesn't even acknowledge that her critics even exist. She usually just says that they're misogynist trolls, as if like they're mythical creatures that exist in an alternate reality that you never have to actually pay attention to. Um, and when in actuality, her critics are more popular than she is by kind of a lot. And but she finally acknowledged that incident and published it on Feminist Frequency. And then YouTube, or VidCon at least, said that they sided with her,
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
yeah, and so then people were upset about that, and they decided to, well, what if we started our own convention? And Sister Danger, who I know as a friend, like she's a personal friend of mine, um, the person who really like, um, Based Mama was the person who like wanted to do this, and Based Mama, um, I'll be perfectly honest, because she has gotten a little bit. She definitely was actually sort of shady. Um, she had been my friend, and like I don't want to say that I wish her any ill will. She certainly didn't do anything bad to me at all. Like I have nothing against her on a person to person basis. But Based Mama, um, she always was a little bit of a social climber. It did seem like it did seem like she would, sort of try to have like social relationships with people, and to the point where I did always sort of wonder why. It's like, why is she really on YouTube? And what when I was friends with her, it was easy enough for me to just tell myself that it was because she's a housewife and she has like 6 kids, and so she is bored, and so that's her way of, like having a social life, is just hanging out on YouTube, and that's what she would tell people, and it probably was largely, kind of true to a certain degree. But I think that there was also an element of like trying to get money out of it, and by showing her tits to meet bigger YouTuber males and figure out if there was a way to get some money out of it. So I think that that was going on. And then Sister Danger, had experience organizing conventions and like a lot of it, and organizing festivals, and she runs her own business. But she was not prepared to actually even work as somebody who is officially, like, you have to remember, Sister Danger was a volunteer, and she said that from the beginning. She was like, I will not take on being an actual worker for this convention, but I understand the purpose of it, because you guys were treated so horribly at VidCon, even though you have so many subscribers between all of you. Um, and it would be cool if we had a convention. So I'll do what I can to try to get something together. But because of the fact that she wasn't getting paid for it, I think largely because she didn't even really trust that it was like together enough for her to rely on. Like, if you're going to take on something as your job, but you do that year round, like you do contract work with various different festivals and stuff, like that's what Sister Danger does. Um, you wouldn't take a contract that you're not sure is going to pay off. And so she just decided to volunteer instead. And then it turned out that Base Mama just was not a competent organizer at all. And she did, I mean, I honestly, if I sat here trying to like recall the mistakes that she made and list them, and it would just it would go on forever, and I'd probably get some details wrong. But there was so many things that she did wrong, like, not getting confirmation from speakers, and then listing them on the website anyway, which they did to me. They did not say, they never told me that I was explicitly going to be listed on the website, and things like that. And then the really messed up thing was that um Base Mama was the one shooting first and asking questions later, and then Sister Danger was the one having to answer for all of them, because Base Mama was so unprofessional, and everybody could tell that she was so unprofessional, that they ended up just like sort of like Sister Danger ended up having to do all the damage control, and she was volunteering.
Didn't they right out of the gate? Didn't they screw up with disinviting people? They're supposed to be. It was supposed to be about free speech, and then they was it Faith Goldie and who else?
Yeah, there was some like alt-right speakers that were like invited and then like disinvited or some crap
Right.
like that.
Hmm.
And I don't know why that happened, but Sister Danger admits that yeah, that did
I
actually
mean, they
happen.
shot themselves in the foot right at the beginning.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know. Like it's like the thing is the Kilroy Festival. They had the wrong MO for what it really was because it wasn't a free speech. Like, what does that even mean? A free
right,
speech convent?
right.
Like, that's so stupid and vague. Like,
It's like
and
saying we're having a convention to celebrate fun.
yeah, like right.
You know what? Let me
Yeah.
just interject real quick. I organize at a smaller level, and I've
Mhm.
been doing it for years. And for a small event like 100 people, I start a year and a half in advance
Yeah,
with
it's hard,
and
dude.
I
It's
look
fucking.
for I get reservations a year and a half
I yeah,
before the
I organized like artistic like show like variety shows with like DJs and a few drag queens, and that shit is really really hard, you know? Like it's not easy to do this stuff at all. And it was like based the people that were really like um okay, so from my observation, it ended up being kind of like Sister Danger doing all the grunt work, and then Based Mama and Computing Forever, who I don't have anything against him. Like I think that he is actually makes really good videos and is a really smart guy and has a lot of cool ideas. But her and him were kind of like talking to each other a bunch and like just it was kind of like a sky's the limit, let's invite all these people, this is going to be so cool, this is going to be so cool. And then they assumed that Sister Danger was going to like make it all actually like do the grunt work and make it all happen, is sort of what it looks like to me. And it uh, and one of the things they did was and I don't know, like, do not mark my words on this because I don't know exactly why this happens. But one of the things that they did was invite alt-right speakers, and then for whatever reason they disinvited them. And I think that one of the things was, this is what I'm guessing. This is really just my guess. Um, but I'm probably right about this. What probably happened is that they overextended themselves and invited way too many people. Like they just invited way too many people to do this. And a number of people accepted the invitation. And, you know, they invited like over 100 people when they should have been, you know, merely inviting 30 or something, you know, and then like 60 of those people said yes. And then they were like, okay, but you should have invited 30 so that 20 of them said yes, and then maybe go from there. That kind of a thing, right? Um, and a number of them were alt right, and then they had way too many people, and so Sister Danger probably said, "No, Base Mama, we have too many people. Like, there's no way we're going to be able to make this work. So you're going to have to let some people go." And so Base Mama says, "Well, I'm just going to disinvite the alt right people because I don't like them anyway." And that's probably what happened, and that's how it blew up. Um, that would be my guess. And but what what was unfortunate is that like I think that the event probably really should have happened, but I think it should have had sort of a different mission statement. Like, um, I would have specified what what it actually was, because free speech is, yeah, it's like a convention for fun. Like that could mean anything. Like well, convention speeches. What does that even mean? I would say that you know, if I were to organize a convention, which by the way I will never do because I hate organizing, but if I were to organize a convention, I would say that it would be for um politically politically unpredictable voices who are against establishment media and corporate politics. Like I would actually be specific about what it was, somewhat specific, you know, because I would want a variety. But
well,
I
it
would
could
say that in my mission.
yeah, it could have been something like right. You're like on along the lines of counterculture or non-mainstream.
Like yeah, like indie media channels and stuff. Like that would be like the purpose of but like like socio-political and political commentary of independent variety and uh, I don't know. You know
They
what
could
I'm
have
saying?
called it the anti-VidCon.
Yeah, because that's what it was. That's what it really was. You
Yes.
know, like a lot of people say, "Oh, the skeptic community." Like, let's be honest. When we were talking about the skeptic community a year and a half ago, we weren't talking about this like skepticism. We were talking about the anti-SJW crowd, and then even after we were talking about the post anti-SJW crowd. You know, like it was a specific thing that united people because, like, I don't think of people as Andy Worski or whatever as being particularly skeptical. Like he just saw some people that annoyed him and started talking a bunch of crap about them, and then, was able to get sort of sucked into this whole other thing by being not skeptical, and so yeah, but it really got weird when like um and I can't even speak to this. Like, I don't exactly know what exactly happened, but for whatever reason, Jim, Mr. Medicare, developed this like gigantic vendetta against uh, Kilroy, and I wouldn't personally attribute this to him necessarily being alt right because I have no real evidence that he actually is some sort of like alt right or like white nationalist. Some people say that they think that he is secretly, and they're blah blah blah. But like, I don't fucking know, and I don't really care. But he certainly developed a vendetta of seemingly like there's a lot of evidence for this wanting to destroy the Kilroy
Well,
Convention.
he dropped a bomb on them at the end of last year with that video.
Yeah, and there was a lot of like blatant dishonesty in that video too, like very very blatant, and it was strange. Like it was like he was trying to deliberately sabotage it. And I had never noticed him doing things so blatantly dishonest in the past. So, but I don't want to go down that road because people talked about all of that to death. But Kilroy happened. Not a lot of people went. It was something like 60 people at most, or whatever. And basically, the people who went and had fun, it was just an excuse for them to like see some of their friends that they talked to on YouTube and hang out and drink with them in person, probably, which I'm sure was fun for them. Like even if you even get to meet like 12 of your YouTube friends in person and drink, like that's cool. Um, but like,
Well, I have a specific question for you when you're at the end of this.
okay, so but and when it happened and it didn't go off super, it was not the big event that everybody had hoped that it was. When everybody was starting to like uh formulate this notion that there would be this anti-VidCon, which might I remind you, I didn't even go to VidCon, so it's like not like I have a personal investment in creating the anti-VidCon that's going to be so cool. I mean, I was excited about Kilroy. I definitely was. I wanted to go and meet a bunch of people, but the anti-VidCon didn't happen. Jim seemed really proud of it. And then VidCon happened again this year, and then they didn't have any of the same type of problems that happened last year. Like there was none of the same type of drama, apparently. And I just think that that's interesting to think about. And I haven't thought about it too much depth, but like, you know, that whole sequence of events, it's very interesting. And I don't have any like deep conspiracy theory about what went on, that I'm going to sit here and like propose, but it's strange, right?
Yeah, I was planning on going to the Kilroy, and by the end of the year, I was starting to change my mind because I was concerned that it was that it was either not going to happen or it was going to crash and burn, and unfortunately, but my question to you about that was if you were going to be one of the speakers. Now you have an anonymous, like me, an anonymous channel. So how would you, if you're on stage, wear a
I'm not
mask?
okay. So here's the deal. I'm not that anonymous.
Okay.
Like I've doxed myself on air before,
Okay.
and I could list about 6 or 7 reasons why I choose not to show my face. And a number of them are kind of personal, and I could tell you them off air, and it would be like, oh, that makes sense. you know. But uh, the the biggest one, and this is going to be the longest standing one, and this is just going to be sort of how it is. Um, I I've been on the internet for I'm an old school like message board kid, like and old mailing list person. Like I used to be on
List
Raver.
serves. List serves, right?
Yeah, yeah. I used to be on a mailing. The first time I really started using the internet, it was called Northwest Raves, and it was a Northwest Raver mailing list that I got on in 1997. And as soon as I got on there, I was getting about 100 emails in my inbox a day, which, for like a 15-year-old kid, it seemed like a really, really big deal. And I could post, and everybody on that list would get would get my email, and then so everybody would have these discussions. And there's about 600 people on when I first joined. And I would go out on the weekends to these raves, and then all week we'd talk on this mailing list. And and then from there it evolved into message boards, and from there it evolved into Friendster, then MySpace, then Facebook, and avatars, and then eventually videos, and blah blah blah. So I've been observing internet interactions and being really, really in the trenches of it. And keep in mind, not just as like some passive observer where I was like some anonymous person that just like was only on the internet and like just I would do the internet as a hobby. It was an actual part of my life because I was a not just a raver, but I was a DJ within the rave scene. And so people knew my screen name, knew who I was, knew what I looked like in real life. Sometimes I would post pictures of myself on message boards. People would go to raves and say, "Hey, I'm Pixie Star Girl," and be like, "Oh, hi, Pixie Star Girl." And they're like, "Yeah, sorry that we had that one fight, but you actually, we made up, and so I just wanted to say hi." And I'd be like, "Okay, cool, Pixie Star Girl. I hope you like my music." And she's like, "Yeah, I really liked it," and that would happen a lot. Like, so, I, over the years, started to realize that, life is really strange when a bunch of people know what you look like and may potentially care about you, but you don't know what they look like, and you don't care about them. Like you go out to some public place and people are like, "Oh, look, it's," like I imagine it's really weird for Blair White because Blair White is, obviously Blair White. Everybody knows exactly what she looks like. And she lives in LA, and she has these very, controversial views, especially with the crowd that she would, like if she were to go out to gay bars and stuff, which she almost never does. I imagine it's strange for her. And so mainly it's just that. It's as simple as that. Like, I don't want that bother in my life at this age. I want my channel to be dissociated with my name and my face just for the headache sake of it. Just so that I can rest assured that I can go in public and like people aren't really going to know who I am very commonly. Um, and but there are some other reasons, like yeah, there's some po- political type things and some other reasons. There's 5 or 6 more other reasons, but that's really the main one, and that's never really going to change. Like I'm always going to have at least a pen name or two for that reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I was just, if
So if I went to Kilroy, it would be like, "Yep, here I am. Here's what I look like. You can take a few pictures or not, but I'm still gonna go back home
right.
and I'm gonna just not actually have myself in my videos." And so if you ever want to know what I look like, you will know what I looked like that day in that outfit from those angles.
So we have like people like Sargon of Akkad, whose name's out there already, Carl Benjamin.
Yeah.
But then you have people like, Computing Forever shows his face. He uses the avatar, but he's
His name is Dave Cullen.
yeah. But you have somebody like Bearing.
Yeah, whose name is Patrick, but we don't know anything more necessarily.
Right. Well, we got that part. So if he shows up at one of these things, And you know the internet's
He's going to one of them. He's going to like MythCon or something.
oh in Milwaukee.
Yeah, yeah. That's what he. I mean, unless he's not anymore. He told me that though.
Interesting. He's going or being on stage.
Well, I imagine if he's going to fly all the way from Australia, he's going to go on
Stage,
stage.
yeah. I'd like to go to that. I can't. I couldn't go last year because of conflicts and schedule that were impossible to resolve. So I'm going to try this year. Um, yeah, that's a funny. It's a funny world of you know anonymities and semi-anonymities and doxing.
Yeah. Well, right, hey, I can't talk for too much longer, but speaking of doxing, the way that the reason that we know each other, you and I, is because of that crazy turf with the brain tumor. Um, and she paid someone to dox me.
I didn't know that. Is that
Yeah.
recently or back then?
No, that was back then. Yeah, yeah. They talked about doing it. The turfs are, they're radical feminist professionals. Like it's pretty clear that they actually so I this is a conspiracy theory that I have no problem saying out loud at this point. I made an entire video about it. What it seems to be, and the trends of UK feminism are actually following in what I've predicted here, is that feminism is losing power and losing budget in the United Kingdom, and because of that, they want the budget of transgender activism that is coming from feminism incorporated, because feminism is a big money laundering fucking organization that takes taxpayer money and puts it into the hands of feminist activists. Basically, it's mostly what it is. I don't know if laundering is the right word, but fraudulent money gathering empire. Um, the the turfs are feminism was trying to expand itself by making an issue out of transgenderism, with the hopeful intent of trying to say that they were sticking up for minorities. Transgender people are a very victimized minority in terms of statistics, right?
They're marginalized.
Yeah, they're well, and victimized. Like
Yes.
they
Yes.
get brutalized very, very commonly, and there's a lot of bad things happen to them. So if feminism painted themselves out to be the people that were helping transgender people, then it would make feminism as sympathetic, because that was their strategy, right? Well, it ended up not really working. And the very, very far leftist people, like the Jeremy Corbyns of the UK, and other such people, started losing power, and Brexit happened and everything. And so they're realizing, wait, our little strategy of, like sticking up for the littlest little guy isn't really working. And we just lost a bunch of money by losing an election, you know? Uh, Theresa May, who's a conservative, even though she defines as a feminist herself, actually, but she's not like a crazy bleeding heart feminist. Uh,
Well,
she's
there's so many stripes of feminism. It's boggles the
yeah,
mind.
yeah. Well, sure, but I don't think that she's a full blown. I mean, okay, I'm sure she's a very gynocentric woman, but she's not like a full blown postmodern gender deconstructionist who like wants to like rid the world of gender distinctions so that we can make every perfect person a complete blank slate so that everybody lives completely equally, and in a future utopia where everybody's like weird little aliens. um and that's what seemingly a lot of the like communist feminist type people want. Like that's probably what Jeremy Corbyn secretly wants. Well, those people failed in their little mission of using feminism in conjunction with transgender activism and LGBT stuff, and to try to like get votes. It didn't even work. They didn't even get. They lost a bunch of elections. So now the people, the socialist type people, the Labor Party, they're re-strategizing, they're regrouping and thinking like, okay, how do we get control back? and they're probably withholding funds from the feminist organizations. Like they had alliances with the long-standing feminist organizations, but the long-standing feminist organizations are almost certainly not prioritized because the feminist organizations failed. Like the feminist organizations had their little marketing strategies of how to get votes, and it didn't work. So they're getting cut off from the budget. And so then the feminist organizations, like if you are a career feminist, if your entire livelihood, and like let's say you're in your 60s, you have been, you went to university and like got a gender studies degree and have been advocating for like, I don't know, against pornography and like whatever the hell these people do as their actual job. Um, and a politician gave you a bunch of money hoping that you were going to help them win an election, and you failed, and that politician is never going to give you money again. Well, you're going to have to start pinching your pennies, right? And the way that you would do that is start, cut off all unnecessary budget. Like what are you spending money on that you don't need to be spending money on? Well, I'm a fucking feminist. I'm not going to spend money on people with penises, right? And that's where the UK turfs come from at the moment. That's why they've gotten so popular. Is I think just because of money. The money is drying
How
up.
popular are they? Because they're vilified at every.
Well, no, in the UK, there's a lot of them, and they're actually starting to make headway. Sargon had in a This Week in Stupid, I think it was not this week, but the week before, or maybe I'm wrong. Um, uh, th- there's some new turf push.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I read the article that he based it on too. Yeah,
yeah. And they're demonized over here a bit more,
they
but
went to the men's swimming
but
pool or something.
yeah, but just you wait. It's going to follow here too. Turfs are going to rise in the United States too, because ultimately feminists are just gynocentric female supremacists. They don't give a crap about anyone besides ultimately themselves, but also people with uteruses. That's what they care about. Though they want to take all the credit for helping people with uteruses, and they're not going to compromise their budget. So, like encouraging transgenderism in any way, that's just an afterthought because, transgenderism is feminizing males to them, so they kind of like that. But like in the UK, their budget was cut off quicker because Brexit and stuff. Like the trends in the UK politically started happening a little bit before they happened here. And so that was the rise of people like Magdalene Burns. She's part of this like weird new little crew of the radical feminist activists that I don't know about her herself, because I just don't know. Like I don't know if anyone knows anything about this crazy chick with the brain tumor. Like is she a professional feminist? She claims to work in physics, but I don't believe her. Like I think she's lying about that because she can't form a coherent argument or make a few videos without lying.
The thing about their position though, if it's some political movement that's dark and sinister, it's one thing. But the we in polite society we try to respect people's what they think of and what their beliefs are, and if they're not comfortable with somebody just saying with a beard and puts on a dress and I want to go in the changing room now, that's that's the caricature. That's the one that everyone throws out there and everyone always beats out. Whether nobody with beards puts on dress and goes in the women's changing room, but so where some of them are coming from,
Yeah.
is legitimate to them. It's not. So we fought for women's spaces for generations.
Yeah.
And all
No,
you have to do is say, because like in some, what's it, England, Canada, I forget which one, they can now. You don't even have to transition or anything. You can just say,
yeah. No, it's true. It's messed up. And yeah. So yeah, it's like everything's going to become co-ed, and that there's a very specific reason, like why the arguments coming from the you watched my videos about turfs, and a number of the actual talking points. Like if you dissociate the talking points with the people of turfs, like you have to do that, because the actual like turf spokespeople, okay, so the turf talking points, a number of them actually are true. Like there should be spaces for females to change, and like males, like people, like I don't know if even a very like I don't even know if Blair White having a penis should go into those spaces and take showers. Like I haven't decided. You
Well,
know what I
you and
mean?
I think both of us agree that if somebody says I'm this, we respect that. And a lot of the radical feminists say, okay, you want to be a trans woman, that's fine. You're not a female.
Well, they say a lot of weird shit,
Yeah.
but you have to, okay, so like the talking points, a number of the talking points are actually true, and then a number of them are either flat out untrue or just blatant exaggerations, like such as transgender women are very, very likely to commit violence, blah 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 blah, which is a drastic exaggeration. And then also they're very likely to commit rape because they're men and all men are rapists, which is just not true. And they will say those things. They say them all the time.
Well, that's I mean, you have to look at um, the radical feminist part of that acronym.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's where it comes back to this notion of like these are the people that ha they are in self-preservation mode because their entire careers and lives and livelihood and like whatever nonprofit government funded organization they actually are employed by um is facing budget cuts because they were apparently getting a lot of budget from something like the Labor Party or some shit like that, and now they aren't, and so they're pulling out all the stops to try to save their money. And one of the main things that they're doing is trying to get rid of transgender activism, and they'll justify it in whatever way that they can, and they don't care that they're being dishonest. Like you know if you it's like an animal backed into a corner. Like you can't expect it to be rational. Like of course it's gonna bite, claw,
So
do
you're
whatever.
saying it's kind of like Harry Anslinger after the end of Prohibition said we're all going to be out of work. The Prohibition, whatever part of the
I
federal
don't know.
government
I
they
don't
were.
know that story. So
He ran the when they busted
I
up
would
all.
say that the best easiest metaphor is it's kind of like a fox with its leg trapped in the steel trap, and it will chew it off. Like
Well, see what Harry Anslinger did was uh, the the amendment. I forget which one it was that was overturned, and then drinking was legal again. Well, his whole that whole department was going to be gone, and so he
mm.
decided, oh, drugs are bad. Marijuana is the evil weed, and
Okay, yeah, it's not entirely dissimilar.
and
Not
so
entirely
it's
dissimilar.
self-preservation. You mentioned that, but I immediately thought of that when you're
Yeah,
like
trying to create a new niche.
justify your
Yeah,
existence.
yeah, yeah, trying to create a new demon to justify the gravy train that you're riding on. Yeah, I think that that's basically sort of what the turfs really are. Because it's not necessarily their talking points. It's that once you start looking at their talking points, and if you agree with them, then they suck up to you. But then if you say, okay, I agree with all of them except for one or two, then they freak the fuck out. Because
As you found out.
yeah, and you saw that. Like
Yeah.
they were just insane to me. And here's the and this is where it gets weird. And they so I've come up with this new term. And I want to popularize this, but it's hard to popularize terms, but hey, whatever. Um it's a term for a type of internet user. And it's somewhere at the two words that would best describe it are it's somewhere in between a troll and a hacker, but the key point that differentiates it is that these people seem to take money to do other people's bidding. And so some of these people might be hackers, right? They might actually have some legitimate hacking skills. I don't really know. But I'm sure a lot of them don't. I'm sure a lot of them, you know, couldn't hack their way into their own fucking bank account if they forgot the password, right? But what they do is they make a whole bunch of Twitter accounts, a whole bunch of Google accounts to watch videos on, and they will basically fuck with people for the right price. And
A sock puppet army.
yeah, except for it's really just like one or two people, and
Ah.
often just one.
You're giving
Um,
me an idea. I might want to start a business.
well, apparently a number of these people have
Yeah.
done it,
Well, think
and
about it, huh?
yeah, and this came out around Gamergate, that these people, like, people first started noticing their, like, these this really weird behavior of these people around Gamergate.
On
Like there
which
was these,
side?
well, that's the thing. These were people that had been hanging out with the Gamergate YouTube type crowd, like the actual, like, decent people, and knew a number of them, but then all of a sudden were and had been arguing against the feminists, but then all of a sudden were like doing shit in favor of the feminists and stirring up shit from both sides, and people were like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And then um and I think a number of people, I don't know if anyone ever got caught getting paid to do that, and like how, I mean, how it would be really, really hard to like get any sort of receipts on any sort of paper trail about paying someone this way. Like, you can PayPal anybody, and like, so uh you but that was definitely happening, that there were these people that weren't feminists, that were doing things on behalf of feminists, and had been previously arguing against them. Like, they flipped, and people were saying that that was really weird. And then what happened during the whole blood sports thing, when everybody was attacking, everybody that was on the Kraut server, everybody that had anything to do with Kilroy, they ended up attacking me simply because I defended Wizard of Cause, seemingly, because I knew that they were accusing him of some stuff, and I knew he was innocent, and so I testified on his behalf. Um, so they attacked me. They ended up attacking the Honey Badgers. And it was just absurd how many different people they were attacking, and how A, vehement they were in attacking these people, and B, how little reason they had to attack any of them. Like, they had nothing against basically any of them. Like, sure, maybe they had something against Kraut himself, and like maybe one or two other people on that server, like, maybe was being kind of bad. In terms of the evidence, like, I don't know. I wasn't on the server. I don't know. But they were just making stuff up constantly. And not only were they making stuff up, but they were really, really, really dedicated to stalking people. And it was very, very clear that there was a lot of sock puppet accounts, like these accounts that were made in February of 2018, and it was only followed by 25 other accounts. And if they had a problem with someone, all those 25 accounts were like coming after somebody. And then if you said, hey, you're sock puppets, they would say, no, I'm not. Everybody just hates you. You're so paranoid. You're paranoid. We aren't sock. You think that everyone hates you as a sock puppet. You're so paranoid. And it was like, and then also and they would dox people, and they would do these things where, like, they would have these streams, and reliably, even though it was like no more interesting than somebody like lighting their farts, like it was like the most boring stream imaginable, there was always like over 1,000 people watching them, like, always, at all times. And it was like, there's no way, there's just no way, that's not real. And it's like, oh wait, but we know that these people make a bunch of sock puppet accounts. So it might take a while, but you could literally make 500 Google accounts and have them all watching a stream at once. I'm sure that there's a way to do that, right? I don't really know how to do it, and I wouldn't want to. Like that's not something that I'm interested in. But
It's just a little bit of effort.
yeah. But it wouldn't be too much effort in the current year, right? Like
Right. Well,
there's no way, there's nothing to prevent you from doing that, and it's not
right.
illegal. It's not illegal, and it's certainly not illegal for someone to pay you to like watch to have 500 accounts watching a stream, or you could do it on your own stream, right?
Yeah.
And then these same people would go to so they really hated Jeff Holiday and Wizard of Cause, the YouTube Saints. They really had a problem with those two guys for some reason. And they would go in the YouTube Saints, and they would have an account that would just say the N-word over and over and over again. And then somebody would put the account on timeout, and then they'd have another account immediately saying the N-word, the N-word, the N-word. And then they put that one on an account, and the person would clearly have so many accounts open just to spam the N-word that it was, it was obviously the same person. And
Disrupting. You mean they were disrupting?
yeah, and there was obviously at least like 20 or so, because you couldn't put all of them on timeout. There was always a new one, right? And like, okay, I could accept that maybe there was some crazy nerd out there who actually hated Jeff Holiday so much that was just doing that to the YouTube Saints because they hated Jeff Holiday, because a lot of people really did think that Jeff Holiday had doxed people. Like, people did really believe that, right? But it got to the point where, like, okay, Wizard of Cause, nobody actually thought that he doxed anyone. Like, I defended him. He almost was never on that server. Nobody had even the slightest shred of evidence. Like, he was officially a member of it, but he never used it. Nobody had even the slightest shred of evidence that he had done anything at all. And I said exactly why. I was like, yeah, I can testify on his behalf. He had a really bad breakup. His heart was broken, and he was not interested in YouTube at all during that time. And I was talking to him all the time. And I have Skype logs of like text conversations between the two of us during that period when he was supposedly doxing people, and all he would ever talk about was his ex-girlfriend. So, the idea, but even still, even just Wizard of Cause, because he was tangentially associated with Jeff Holiday and associated with the Kraut server, they followed Wizard of Cause onto this guy's channel, this guy Wrath of Controversy, who has like, I don't know, 500 subscribers, maybe less. They followed him onto his channel because Wrath of Controversy is friends with Wizard of Cause, and they were doing the same exact thing to Wrath of Controversy's channel, just typing in the N-word, the N-word, the N-word. And then if we try to put those people on timeout, there'd always be another account. And so, like, the lack of dedication, or sorry, the immense dedication to doing this, to stalking these individuals that that they had a problem with, and there was no reason for it. Like, everybody knew that Wizard of Cause, Nick, everybody knew that Nick didn't do anything, right? But even still, they stalked him onto some other guy's channel who's like, in YouTube land, a microscopic channel, just to mess with him. That's bizarre. And personally, I think that it makes the most sense that somebody was paid just to mess with Nick. Like, and because I think that, the simplest explanation is the most logical one. I think that it's simpler to believe that somebody was paid to mess with Nick than it is to imagine that there's somebody who would create like 25 sock puppet accounts just to follow Nick around. Like, who would that person be? That's crazy. So, I imagine that there's these people called shackers. That's what I like to call them. And they're people that will just get paid to be a nuisance on the internet. And it's perfectly legal. There's no reason why people wouldn't do this. And Magdalene Burns works with them. is what I think. And the reason why is because when she and here's the mess up thing. If you get doxxed or people try to dox you or whatever, like they tried to dox me, found some old listing, like they figured out my name, found some old listing for me, and were like sending it to me to like fuck with my head or whatever. I can never prove that because one, I don't want to show any of my old listings, right? Or my real name. I don't want to show anyone that. And two, I don't want to show a screen capture of the person who was doing it. Because if somebody is somebody who will take a few $100s to dox you, that's not someone you want to mess with. Because that's a scuzzy ass person that you don't want to be on the bad side of, right? So I can only sort of tangentially tell people about it in the way that I'm doing it now. I can't really like prove that she did this, but a her fans were threatening to like they were saying that they were going to pay someone to dox me. I have a screen capture of that. B, I know that she B, I have if somehow I got doxxed and swatted and I brought this to court, I could show the emails of, you know, of this, like the Twitter DMs where this guy was trying to like dox me. And he did say explicitly, he says, "Yeah, why are you messing with Magdalene Burns?" Like, so he said why he was fucking with me, right? And then if you look through his other stuff that he was posting on Twitter, he's not a feminist. He's not a radical feminist. He was a like Pepe the Frog type dude. Like he's just some fucking, I don't know what his deal is, but it makes the most sense that he was actually paid to do this. And then finally, I've seen her interacting with that guy on Twitter, like tagging him for other reasons since then. So I know that she's in regular communication with this guy. And yeah. So if you think about all of it related and think about how there is money behind this radical feminism radical feminism. They are trying to preserve self-preservation mode. They are trying to get transgenderism out of the picture, and they want their arguments to look like they make like they want feminists to be afraid of transgender people. They want feminists to think that trans women are dangerous and that they shouldn't be allowed in women's spaces or feminist spaces, and that feminists shouldn't be allocating any of their time and resources to transgender activism. That's what these people want because they're going to hold on to more money that way. That's what these people want. And if anybody is an inconvenience, like if I raise my hand and say, "Hey, I don't think it's true that transgender women are as dangerous as you guys are saying," then they have every reason to start paying these shacker people to do whatever that they can to try to shut me up. And that's what I think that they did. I think that's as simple as that.
Are you going to do a video on the shackers?
Yes. And it's just going to describe the phenomenon. And here's the thing. Now that this has happened, it's not any one person. It's not any organized person. It is just an internet phenomenon that started coming about over the past couple of years, especially where people realized that they could start paying people to do their bit.
Maybe it's Fiverr. Maybe it's Fiverr. What do you think?
No, I think it's a significant amount more money than that. Because the people, here's the other thing. The shackers themselves, they're dumbasses. None of them are smart. Like, because I've dealt with them. I've dealt with multiple ones because I encountered them first from Magdalene Burns and then next from the Bloodsport people when I was defending after I defended Wizard of Cause. And the people who they get to like fuck with you are extraordinarily stupid. Like they all seem like they have drug problems and shit. So it's like there was this one girl who was like trying to come after me, and she made a 45-minute video. Like she tried to start arguing with me in my comments, and honestly, I just found her entertaining enough because she was so weird. Like she was just like incomprehensible. She didn't make any sense. And I knew that there was something suspicious about her. And so I kind of like purposefully egged it on, you know? So we went back and forth for a while, and then sure enough, she ended up making like a 45-minute video where she read through the entire chain of comments, giving her own little commentary, and it was the most cringy, embarrassing thing. She was like, and so then Prince says that I made a stupid argument, which is dumb because my argument was brilliant, but like whatever. And then he says that, but and it was like, what type of girl is this? Like, and she actually had a video of her and her face showing, and she had like really fucked up teeth, like maybe she used to be a crackhead. And she has babies, and so she like isn't working right now. And it's like, oh, so did someone like pay you to fuck with people? Is that what? Because that's what it seems like. Like
What kind of money do you think is in that?
I have no idea. I have no. I mean, I just don't know. Like I have no idea.
They have like
and I have no proof. And I have no proof.
Yeah.
But it's just like there's definitely no law against giving someone a PayPal donation to write what to like to make a criticism video of Prince of Queens. Like, what weird law would prevent her from doing that, or prevent someone from but the only people that you're gonna find, I would guess it's probably a low amount of money, right? Like I would guess that this girl got paid like $200, probably no more than $200 to do that. Maybe even like $50 because she's hard up for money and she's a crackhead with babies or something. That would just sort of be what I would say. But it would just be my guess, and I would say that simply because of the fact that most people wouldn't put themselves in such a non-respectable position that they would do such a thing in general. But again, I don't have any evidence that like I have never been on, I don't use Discord, I don't go on 4chan, like whatever place people congregate to set up these transactions or whatever that and find new recruits to do this and whatever, I'm not a part of. I'm observing this from afar and thinking of this in terms of the hypothetical and kind of what it looks like. There is a distinct possibility that this girl actually is so stupid that she decided to hate me because she liked watching the Kumite. Like that is possible.
Well, I'm going to. I think we need to wrap this up. Yeah. I'm getting kind of hungry.
Yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah, well, that too, but I didn't want to say that. And it's been a little while, and I really appreciate you coming on the channel. And you're a great talker, great conversationalist, good thinker, really good thinker.
Thanks,
and really comfortable online. So that's one thing I comes out in your videos is that you're just at ease and but easy. You're very easy to talk to, and so I really appreciate it. And we both got to take a leak.
Yeah, I might have to go number 2 as well.
It comes down to animal instinct, right? Just basic bodily functions. So I'm gonna. Let me stop this